we were seeing a lot of people going overseas, and that started to then create sex tourism and all of those things where women were no longer using their skills but felt that they could sell their bodies or could engage in inappropriate relationships in order to find money, right?
And so one of the solution is economic security and economic freedom. If we can create something like RedGreen Rivers, and if you create young girls who are economically stable, can that change the lives of these girls?
RedGreen Rivers is a social enterprise that works with artisans based in Southeast Asia, most of whom are women and girls, and we really focus on improving the economic livelihood of our artisans as well as preserving indigenous art forms that have been passed down for generations.
I was born in 1974, right at the end of the Vietnam War.
Laos was supposed to be a neutral country during the Vietnam War, according to the Geneva Accords, but nobody abide by that agreement, and everybody was in Laos, and the U.S. Recruited the Hmong to be their army there.
And when I was born, I was very malnutritioned. My mother tells the story of I nearly died in a Thai hospital. During that time, there was a lot of war casualties, and so children or sick folks were being drained of their blood to perhaps save soldiers and save other folks. And so my mother often tells me about the story of how she basically saved my life and left that hospital. The Midwest became a hub full of sponsors from Baptist churches and all these places, and so we ended up in the Midwest. A lot of people wonder why Hmong people from the jungles of Laos would end up in the Midwest, but it had a lot to do with the relocation plan.
I feel like there's so many parallels, right, between all three of our stories. I'm also a child that was born during the what is more widely known in this country as the Vietnam War, but to us, those of us who lived in Laos, was the Secret War. We were among one of the thousands of families who kind of made that foot trip to safety in Thailand. My mother says it took us about a month, and by the time we got to the refugee camps, our shoes were non-existent, our feet were blistered, so now when I have a ton of shoes, I tell my husband it's because I didn't have shoes then.
I think it's almost serendipitous that we met because our lives parallel each other so much. I came to this country when I was about 6 or 7 years old. We went to the refugee camps and lived there as refugees. We came to this country as refugees. And unfortunately, those Midwestern states have never seen Asians before, and so naturally we face a lot of discrimination. And those are the memories that are scarred in me forever, because I grew up in a small town called Manitowoc in Wisconsin, and every single day from morning to night we were called gooks and chinks. And in the evenings, they would throw eggs at our houses and call us on the phone and harass us. So I will never forget that as long as I live. Every single night I dreamt about how I would change the world. And I listened to Martin Luther King's speeches because he was the only person of color we studied in school. And it resonated with me. And I knew that when he said that I have a dream that my children would not live this kind of world, I knew he was talking about me. And even at a very young age, I knew that I had the obligation and responsibility to live that dream for him, right, to make that dream possible. Very few people make these products anymore. The batik artist that we work with in Sian Kwang, she is among a handful of people that can still do this. I think a dozen or less of people who can batik. This is very sad when we have thousands of Hmong people around the world, you know. So when I was in Laos, I asked people, how did a design like this get to China and mass produce? And they said that they have seen Chinese merchants who come and wanted to buy their designs like this, and then for $200 or something one time, and then they would take it to China or wherever and mass produce it. And I asked them, well, how do you feel about that? And they said, well, when we really need money, we would do it, but we also worry about how when we sell it to them, that it's no longer ours. And when they make that, when we make that $200, they're not going to come back to buy more. So I think deep down they have a sense of fear and uncertainty about what to do. But remember, people are living in poverty, so what can you do, right, to help them? Personally, all of us appreciate Hmong designs a lot. The opportunity came when I was living in Laos and I started a Hmong women's organization. We talked to the women and we said, you already have a skill, why not we just build on those skills, right? And that skill is the handicraft skill. And so I said, well, I have friends in the US, so I sent it to these two to promote it. In a span of 1 year, I think the two of you sold more than $10,000 worth of products. In 2013, when I moved back to the US, the three of us made a trip to Southeast Asia because we wanted to talk about doing more gender justice work. Yeah. So on this trip, we were in a van going up to a northern province in Thailand, and we came up with the name RedGreen Rivers, and that's how the business was born, in a van. And RedGreen Rivers are two actual rivers that runs through China and Vietnam.
It's what the Hmong people crossed over from China to get to Southeast Asia.
200 years ago when they migrated to Southeast Asia.
Yeah. This was the neighborhood that many Southeast Asians could afford to start their businesses in when we all started moving here. Now, as the community has done better, a lot of people are also moving away, right? But these small businesses are still here, and there is still community here, and so we want to be able to anchor our shop here too, so that we can bring people back into the neighborhoods, right, to invest in it.
We work with makers in Vietnam, in Laos, and in Thailand. These three countries still have large Hmong populations. We help design new products, and the unique products we also work with them to say these are our joint designs together, and we need to protect that, right? And this is something that they have never been taught before.
People who are buying things here are also changing, right?
Yes.
People are starting to be much more conscious.
One of the best examples that I can give you is our peace bracelets. In the secret war, or the US war in Laos, the bombs that were dropped is equivalent to 9 years, 24 hours every 8 minutes. That many of them, because they were dropped too low, didn't explode in time. And the farmers are using it and turning it into useful things like spoons and bracelets and stuff. And so I think that when people hear that story, they're compelled to buy something because it reminds them of a piece of history.
And for my Yang and Chu, who are our youngest artisans, they're in their late teens, 18 and 19. They said that their confidence has increased so tremendously.
I think we talked about scale, not just in terms of bigger, but deeper, right? That we want Maya to get into a situation where she can employ others in her village, right? That is scale for us. Our business bottom line is not just how much profit can we make as a company. Are the lives of the artisans changing?
Yes.
Hey Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.